I do feel like that brings up the like next point that we were kind of discussing about VidCon. Nice segue there.
So basically, I felt really safe because it was just a calm, like, not calm, it was a convention environment, but it felt relatively like everyone there was cool.
It was organized.
It was organized,
yeah.
But then my bag was never checked. I never went through any of the security stuff that I was told we were going to have to go through. I don't know, I was kind of almost wanted to be treated a little more harshly by security just because that makes you safer. Like, I wanted them to check my bag. I wanted someone to come up to me and say, hey, can I check your bag, like, throughout the weekend? I wanted to go through any kind of, like, when going into a section, I wanted to know that everyone had gone through security. Not because I want to be harassed, but, like, I want the person who could be doing something dangerous to have to go through the same measures that I do.
So the way that VidCon works, it's very, very well organized. This was both of our first VidCons, and I've been to Playlist a few times, I've been to SITSI, and so I've kind of been around the convention circuit a few times, and this is by far so well organized that I was not expecting. However, getting through the security to go to like the creator panels and the industry panels, it should be easy. Like, obviously our badges are colored by like what track you're on, but like the security people, I got stopped more than once, and they would ask like, well, what does this mean? Like, I don't know. And they're like, what's going on? I don't understand. And they would be like I had more than one security person be like, oh, your badge says creator, are you like a famous person?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like I'm not, first of all. But like they clearly hadn't been briefed on like what was going on. And I feel like in order for it to be a safe space for everyone attending, the people who are running the security need to kind of have an idea of what's going on, in the sense that like, I feel like they literally were just told the red badges are the crazy fans and don't let them through. And it's kind of one of those things where it's almost, for me, offensive coming from, I very recently in the like convention circuit been going to creator things. And so before I started doing that, I was in the just community fan side of all of the content, and it very much is, they don't treat you necessarily with respect at all. You're just seen as a crazy fan, and it doesn't matter your age, and it doesn't matter, you know, how respectable you are, it doesn't matter how you're acting. And I think that part of that problem and part of that like clear divide is that the security people are very clearly told, if they have this color badge, watch out for them because they're the crazy ones.
Like, it really seemed like that because one time when we first got to VidCon, we had been there for like an evening, and we had been walking around for a while, and we were like, hey, we need to find a toilet. We want to see if there's a hotel nearby that has one. So we walked up to the Hilton, was closest to us.
Which is where all the YouTubers stay as well, for the most part.
A lot of the YouTubers, the featured guests, stay there. We walked in and we were like, that was right next to us. So we were like, hey, maybe they have a restroom we can use. But we didn't want to like get ourselves in a situation. We didn't want to make security mad if we weren't supposed to be in there, because neither of us really knew. We just got there. So we walked up to a security guard that was standing nearby, and we were like, hey, are there restrooms that we can use in the Hilton? She looked out our badges and was like, oh yeah, I think you should be fine to get in with that badge. And we were like, should we?
Yeah, it was clear that she thought, because our badges said creator, that she thought that we were guests that were allowed inside the Hilton past times. And I don't think that that's necessarily her fault, and I don't think it's the people in charge of security's fault. I think it's fundamentally a problem with the way that the language is.
Yeah.
In that everyone's a creator, but not everyone's a featured creator. And I think that there's clearly been a mishap in that when they were telling people, like telling the security people, there are featured creators and then there's also creators, there was kind of a miscommunication that those are two separate things, and that maybe there needs to be a different verbiage for it, like maybe a special guest, an invited guest. I think using different verbiage, and instead of calling them, and like I hate to say that, like that there needs to be a different word, but I think in order for it to be a safe space, because it wasn't that it made me feel unsafe, but it was more like if I put myself in the shoes of a attendee who comes and is wanting to feel safe on the other side as well, if I was in their position, I wouldn't feel safe.
Yeah, if I were staying in the Hilton and I knew that there were a lot of people who'd be interested in finding out where I was staying for whatever reason, and I knew the security guard. All they had to do was buy a creator pass. Like, you don't have to be invited to be a creator. All they had to do was buy a creator pass and wear it, and someone would be like, oh yeah, I think that means you can go on up there. Like, I would feel very unsafe knowing that it would be that easy.
This is not to bash any of the conventions. I just think it's something that even the conventions themselves have admitted is a problem, and is something that they're still working on trying to figure out how to properly do it. Because it's clearly an issue within the community, and nobody really knows how to handle it, and it just kind of keeps becoming this ball of wire that nobody can figure out every year. It keeps getting bigger.
The more YouTube grows and the more subscribers come in and the more our community gets bigger, the bigger an issue it's going to be, because there's more people and more need for security. For me, it was kind of a worrying experience. The conversations I had with people, I wasn't even trying to have these conversations. They would come up to us and be confused, or we would ask a question, it would happen. So it's kind of something that I feel like is going to get more and more out of hand if it doesn't get fixed.
Yeah, and like that's something I've talked to you about before, in that I've been to Playlist Live, and this isn't to explicitly bash Playlist Live or anything. It's just the security is obviously a bigger thing to tackle at Playlist, because it's kind of weird in that all the other conventions, the YouTubers aren't really staying at the same hotel, and it's literally this huge hotel where all of the attendees of the convention is at the hotel, the attendees are staying at the hotel, and the YouTubers are staying at the hotel, and all of the parties are at the hotel. The security also didn't know what was going on, and so it would be really easy for fans to sneak onto floors, to find out where people are staying, to sneak into parties. Again, it's just kind of like that situation of, I think that half of that problem comes from the security not properly being briefed and taking it as a serious threat. And I'm not saying that any of these people who are breaking the rules and going where they shouldn't be are a threat, but it is like scary. I mean, and obviously I've not been in that situation, but as someone who has watched other people talk about being in that situation and like imagining myself in that situation, like I get very claustrophobic in an elevator. I can't imagine being surrounded by people that I don't know, that I know look up to me, and I feel like I can't be mean and I can't tell them to back off, but I'm uncomfortable and I don't know, like somewhere that was supposed to be a safe space all of a sudden isn't. And I think that kind of plays into this conversation that a lot of people have been having, that why is it that creators are slowly not coming to conventions anymore? And I think security is a big reason for that.
One reason for that could be that the bigger the community gets and the more like attention people are getting, the more mob mentality tends to kick in convention.
It becomes a huge safety issue, and it becomes a huge security issue that I think is not being taken as seriously by the security staff. I think that the people who run the conventions take it very seriously, but I think there's being some like lost in translation in getting to the security staff, and I think that that's because they don't understand what's happening and they don't understand why people are acting the way that they do.
But yeah, not overall like a horrible thing, but it's just some stuff we noticed that was a little questionable and maybe could become an issue, but I don't know. Not that bad, but
I think overall the convention is an amazing place, and I think for the most part it's a safe space, and I think that I don't really have that much negative to say about it at all. And it just seems that every year at every convention that I go to, it's always the only complaint that I have is security. And I don't think it's enough that like I'm gonna stop going.
Oh, definitely not.
And I don't think it's enough that like I think people need to like start freaking out about. But I do think it is definitely something that when we're looking at this larger discussion of convention culture, and when we're looking at this larger discussion of why do fans act a certain way, and why do YouTubers and like featured creators not want to attend or want to act a certain way once they're there, and I think the security issue plays a large part in that, and that people would be amiss to not discuss it when discussing that bigger issue of convention culture, which again for the most part is mostly a positive place. It's a very, very positive experience at conventions, which is why they keep growing.